everyone. I want to talk about the new moon in Scorpio tomorrow morning. It happens super early in the morning, and the Sabian Symbol is a soldier derelict in his duty. When we can see what others cannot, we are more deeply challenged to be true to ourselves. So, with this one, I'm going to kind of share some personal stories because I really lived through this energy the past couple of days. And the new moon is exactly conjunct my Mars at this degree. So there were a lot of lessons that I worked through that when I look at the chart, it just completely describes the energy. We have a trine to Neptune. And we have the new moon and Mars together as well, trining that Neptune. So there is a tendency to possibly be really emotional, really intuitive, but also to maybe overreach or have like a savior mentality. And so I found myself in a really interesting situation a couple days ago where I essentially went through something that was like a really big karmic lesson for me that I know I've worked through in layers over and over and over. And I found myself in a position where I essentially just ignored my intuition and put myself in a position where I gave my power away. And I could see the whole thing happening. And by the end of it, what it had highlighted for me was a shadow that was within me. And it had been mirrored to me by this other person of the savior mentality. And I think this is a deep shadow in the collective as well, because this whole past paradigm of the age of Pisces has been surrounding this Christ myth and the idea of sacrificing ourselves for others, which, you know, you could argue maybe that's even a, what do you call it? Like a inversion of the teachings, possibly. So this is something that's been deeply embedded in my own mother line. I feel it deeply embedded in the collective, and therefore it's in me too. So it was interesting witnessing this, and it helped me to look at like, okay, why am I doing this? And I actually had the opportunity to be super honest with the other person and tell them exactly how I felt. And I cannot tell you what a enormous feat that was for me. Well, it wasn't like it was incredibly hard, but the change that I felt in my body, the change that I felt in my ancestral lines was enormous. So I feel that this new moon is an opportunity for some major karmic shifts and breaking of cycles and breaking of patterns. I mean, this is what we're doing all the time, right? If we're on this conscious path to, and maybe even if we're not, you know, but yeah, it was super fascinating. So yeah, where do I want to go from here? I pulled this card yesterday, Lady of the Lake, it's actually from my Healing Waters deck. I wonder if I could find it. I got the new Rebecca Campbell Healing Waters deck, and I just loved this card because, you know, it's like the Avalonian Lady of the Lake, and her hands coming out of the depths of the lake with a sword, and that's what this energy feels like. I see Mars coming out of the Scorpio depths with his sword, and he's just ready to cut away anything that's no longer serving us, cut away beliefs that are no longer serving us, help us with our discernment. And what's amazing to me is that I had discernment, but I wasn't listening to it. I wasn't allowing myself to trust it. And so that was a huge lesson for me to move beyond this idea that we should be all love and light and realize like, no, we need to protect our own energy, and we deserve to respect our own energy. And just because we're doing healing work with people doesn't mean that we should sacrifice our comfort to help them. So it was a big lesson. Here's the Lady of the Lake card. And actually in this, she's holding the sword down, which is more like connecting to earth. New beginnings, something is about to happen. And everything has just been all about new beginnings over here, which I find so interesting because this lesson for me felt so difficult in a way, like not difficult, but uncomfortable. And so, I love this. So, it's interesting. I'm a little distracted now because this card flew out. This is Diana Cooper's Dragon deck. Alpha Dragon. Harness the divine masculine power of creation. Destroy the old. Visualize your dream. Help to manifest a new world. So that's kind of amazing. I love that the masculine energy is showing up here while I'm talking about Mars. And this is opposite Uranus. So Uranus and Taurus wants us to break free. And there's an earth energy here. It's interesting. I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around it astrologically. I just feel like breaking free of karma. For me, it was also about establishing new boundaries around my energy field, my body. And I feel like that's Taurus energy. This is like the reading of new decks as well, which is actually perfect with this new beginning energy. This one is the Tree of Life Oracle by David Wells, and it's beautiful. Ooh, all right. I got 2 cards here. 32nd Path, the world or universe, independence, facing fears, self-discipline. And that is exactly what I feel like I'm learning from this situation, is to be sovereign, a sovereign being, not to let someone else's will overpower my own. That takes discipline too, in a way, to practice being better at creating boundaries, saying no when you mean no, that kind of thing. And then Gebura, severity, might, discipline, and karma. And look, there's Mars. Oh, wow. And there's the sword again. And the dragon. How beautiful are these cards? I'm going to read this one. 5. Number 5 on the Tree of Life, Gebura, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is home to the Lords of Karma. The planet is Mars. You're operating on a soul level here, so the choices you make have far-reaching consequences. A warrior queen ready for battle, she reminds you to choose your battles wisely. Have the courage to keep moving forward, and when needed, go full She-Ra. Do you want to get your Dragon Slayer on, ready to meet the demands of life with a ferocity of Mars at your back and a basilisk into the fore? A basilisk? I'm not sure what that is. Eternal events can often make us feel like this, but do you know what you're fighting for or even with? It's usually within, right? When this card appears, you're being asked to be clear about what you want and the consequences of the actions you take, all of them. You're also being asked to put everything you've got into seeing something through gracefully. While your initial reaction may be to disregard feelings of anyone who gets in your way, how will that feel further down the line? Grace isn't always something that comes wrapped in ribbons and bows. You can be graceful and courageous, assertive and loving. You could have set some karmic points in your life that are now being activated. Remember, karma isn't only what happens to you, it's how you react to what happens to you. And this is exactly what I went through. I was so amazed. I think because Neptune is trining this energy, I had so much compassion when I needed to talk to this person and set the boundaries and speak my truth. And I was just like, wow, I can't believe I was able to be this brave and courageous for myself and also be like kind on the same, like in the same fail swoop, and just speak from my heart. So let's see what Goddess wants to come through to balance out some of this Mars energy. And I realize I also haven't really talked about what's happening collectively, mostly because I was so shook personally by this energy. And obviously a lot of it, I'm sure you can take some of it and apply it to what's happening in the world right now. Let's see what goddess wants to come through. Ha! Ma'at, justice. Does your heart weigh as light as a feather? This is like a rebalancing point, and something that it kind of goes along with the last messages about speaking your truth and staying loving, realizing that people aren't necessarily evil when they do bad things. How can you have compassion for them while still setting clear boundaries? And I also feel like with Maud, and I love this because this is the logo of my podcast, and like she's so prevalent in my life. But it's how can we respect ourselves? Like we externalize so much. We externalize like, oh, I should be friendly, I should be this, I should be that. This nodal axis of Aries and Libra is the scales. This is what we're learning. We're learning how to come back into balance with ourselves, which then reflects beautifully out to other people. And then I'm going to pull one more card from my Isis deck because she was, what was it? I'm trying to remember the term for it, but she worked with the scorpions. She was like able to command the scorpions and turn like that poisonous, threatening energy into a healing one. And I'm really feeling that with this Scorpio energy. So let's see what Isis has for us. Ooh, the dark mysteries. Enter the dark chamber of the goddess. I'm gonna read just the beginning of this because I feel like I know what this card is about. It's about not being afraid to look at your shadow, definitely. And also sometimes our shadows are our gifts. So it says, the dark goddess calls you to her inner chamber where she holds a test and a gift for you. The test is your willingness to meet and release the fears within that have been secretly holding you back. The gift is freedom, peace, opportunity, and prosperity in all its forms. Will you accept her call? Your time for deeper initiation is here. So if we're willing to go there, there's always gold on the other side. And it's not always comfortable. It's not always easy. But the more we do it, the more comfortable we get with it. And hopefully the easier life can flow. It's like we really have to embrace the tests and see what's on the other side. And in my own situation, I could have handled it better. I look back and look really honestly and see what I could have done differently. And yet I'm still willing to hold all of this compassion for the decisions that I made and what I learned from it. And I also will mention that I'm a 3-5 profile line in human design. So if any of you out there also have that, the martyr heretic, it's kind of wild what we get into. It's like majorly experimental energy and people can't really see us right away. And it's just like, it can feel like it feels like a fun house, like a hall of mirrors that you're sort of finding your way through. But I feel like I'm getting more and more clear about how to navigate it through each lesson that I learn. And so I hope that some of you guys gain something from me sharing my story. For whatever reason, it helps me to share too. And I just feel like it relates to this whole paradigm shift we're going through so much. And I feel the future of like this age of Aquarius, or whatever you want to call this new paradigm we're obviously shifting into, is more about sovereignty and interconnectedness and less about codependency and the savior complex. So yeah, I'm gonna end with that. I hope you guys have a wonderful new moon, and I'm sending you lots of love.